It wasn't really a Cinderella story. After all, she'd been running competitively since childhood, and this was not her first time competing at the Olympics. At this point, she already held the American record in the marathon, 10,000 meters, and road 5K, among others. And yet, no matter how much confidence the running world had in her abilities, nothing at the Olympics is ever guaranteed. This was the sixth time that there would be a women's Olympic marathon, and while her country had competed in each iteration, an American woman had only landed on the podium once before. Plus, she was racing against the top female marathoners in the world, including the world record holder, and it was nearly 100 degrees when the race began. She knew it was going to be tough, but she was up for the challenge. When the gun went off, she started out slowly. At the halfway point, she couldn't even see the lead pack. Then at the same time the leaders began to fade, she began to kick. One by one, she passed the women ahead of her, securing herself into third place, soon before entering the stadium that bore the finish line. One final lap, and the bronze medal was officially hers. Today is Friday, August 22nd, 2025, and on this day in 2004, Deena Kastor won the bronze medal in the women's marathon at the Athens Olympics, making her only the second American woman in history to reach that podium. In this episode, I'll briefly cover Kastor's background prior to the 2004 Games, and then we'll sit down for a conversation with Deena Kastor herself. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and you are listening to Today in Running History. Today is Fueled Friday, which means that this episode is sponsored by Fuel Goods, my go-to partner for all my running fuel needs. I have been a subscriber to their runner box for about 3 years now, and delivery day feels like receiving a birthday present, except that it happens 6 times a year instead of just once. I showed y'all a couple of the products from my August-September box last week, and I had planned on showing you a few more today. But to be completely honest, I have consumed or used nearly everything in that box, and it's all been awesome, by the way. The only thing I have left is this chocolate recovery mix from Tailwind. I have received products from this brand before in my runner box, and they've always been awesome, so I will probably end up drinking this very last product after my run this afternoon. But here is the good thing about Fuel Goods, or one of the good things, because there are so many. Once I finish the products in my runner box, I can go onto their marketplace and order the ones I need more of, and since I'm a member, I automatically get a discount. And for any of y'all who are not subscribed yet, the moment you sign up, you receive $10 to spend at the Fuel Goods marketplace on literally anything you want. But wait, there's more! If you use my code Hillary10, you will also get $10 off your first month of the runner box subscription. I will go ahead and put a link to the Fuel Goods website in the episode description, plus a reminder of my discount code, which again is Hillary10, for all listeners of Today in Running History. Now let's talk about Deena Kastor. She was born on Valentine's Day, 1973, outside of Boston, and immediately adopted by a family from California who named her Deena Drawson. She grew up in Southern California and began running at the age of 11 through a nearby youth track program where she experienced near-instant success. At 12, she joined her first cross-country team and went on to win the National Cross-Country Championships in her division that year. She won the high school state cross-country championship all 4 years, then went on to run collegiately at the University of Arkansas, where her success continued with 4 separate SEC championship titles. After graduating, Deena Kastor turned professional, setting more records and competing in the 10,000 meters at the Sydney Olympics in 2000. There is so much more about Deena than that list. I highly recommend y'all checking out her book, Let Your Mind Run, and then listening to this interview, because that is more than enough of just me talking about Deena, and we are all here to actually listen to her talk. So how about I shut up and we welcome Deena Kastor to Today in Running History. All right, I am here with Deena Kastor. How are you doing today, Deena?
I'm well, Hillary. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. Now, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about your background? I don't want to assume that everybody knows who you are going into this.
So I am Deena Kastor. I live in Mammoth Lakes, California at altitude. I've lived here for 25 years, living and training here to get the benefits of altitude first. And now I just love mountain living. So here I'll stay forever, or at least until some other place lures me. I've been running since I was 11 years old. I'm now 52, and just feel that the sport has given me so much, not just wins and world records and American records, but really just put me in a good place of striving. And that's something I'll never retire from. I love to have a goal on the calendar and chase it. But in doing so, it's also made me better at every other hat that I wear throughout the day. So between world records, I've had a couple world records. I've had the American record from the 5K distance all the way up to the marathon distance. And it's just been the privilege of a lifetime to be in a sport that is so relatable, has such a tight-knit community despite the millions of people that participate in it. So just grateful to continue to be a part of this community that really it's just a cycle of inspiration. I get inspired every weekend when I'm out at races. I get inspired by the people running, as well as getting inspired by my much younger teammates these days in Mammoth.
Yeah, I love that about running, that you can have the record holders, the best of the best, and then you can still relate. Maybe not. I'm not running 4.5 minute miles, but still we're on the same course, and it's running is tough no matter no matter what level you're at, and it's something you can really relate to and commiserate about. I love that. Now, before you got into marathon running, since you did get started so early, and typically children are not out there running marathons, you were big on the cross country and track scene. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean cross country is my biggest love, and even to this day getting out on the trails continue to nurture and nourish my soul. But I love cross country. I feel like it makes us tough and resilient and gritty, physically and mentally. So I love cross country. It'll always have a big place in my running heart. But also the track. I feel like the track is a place where you could measure success, because it's you could always measure distance to distance and day to day. Sometimes the weather can throw you off a little, like a windy day might slow down your times, or an extra hot day might slow down your times. But to me, it was how I measured progress over the years. And road racing was just fun because it was a greater community. The other cross country and track seemed to be about entertaining the crowds, but in road racing, you really feel a part of the greater running community. So I feel grateful to have done it all. Been on the World Cross Country team. I've been on 19 U.S. Teams. Some of those have been cross country, and had the privilege of having 2 silver medals in the World Cross Country Championships, and some team medals as well. Team USA really was strong in the early 2000s, so it was a privilege to be a part of such strong teams as well, traveling around the world together.
That's so cool. And 2004 was not your first Olympics. You went to Sydney in 2000. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, 25 years ago. I'm actually going to Sydney. 2025 marks the first year that the Sydney Marathon is in the Abbott World Marathon Majors. So I'm going to get my 7th star there. I'm returning 25 years after representing Team USA in the Olympics. It was in the 10,000 meters when I was there in Australia, but I had just met the love of my life, Andrew Castor. And so we traveled the world together and ended up in Sydney, Australia at the end of summer to take part in the Olympic Games. I did not have the best Olympics despite that summer breaking the American record, the Olympic trials record. I just was having I just felt unstoppable. Still my fastest 1,500 meters to date. So I just felt like on top of the world that whole summer. And right before the Olympics, I got some Achilles problems. It was probably from racing in spikes overzealously all summer long, but had some Achilles problems. So I didn't have the greatest representation at the Olympic Games. But I remember before I even took my spikes off, walking out of the stadium, that I said, in 4 years' time, I am going to do better. I'm going to be better. My focus is going to be the Athens Olympics, and I'm going to live the dream and not just participate, but try to bring home a medal for my country.
That is so great. And when was your first marathon and what did that look like?
Yeah, my first marathon was a year later in 2001, and it was all to build strength for the 10,000 meters. I just like really wanted a medal in the next Olympic Games. So, what were those steps that had to happen? I needed to become faster in the 400 so I can close with the best in the world, and I also needed to be more enduring so that 10K didn't feel that hard. So set out to run the New York City Marathon in 2001. It happened right after the terrorist attacks on September 11th. So there was a window of time where we weren't even sure that the race was going to happen, but I prepared as if it was. And it was such a fantastic experience being on the streets of New York. It was kind of like the comeback race for the entire city. So it just felt really special to be a part of it. And it really hooked me on the distance. I loved it. I loved how little I knew about running once I ran that race. I just felt like I had so much more to improve upon. The marathon is a good hook like that. You always feel like if I had one more long run, if I had another month of training, if I only did this or that, got my fueling right, went to the bathroom ahead of time, like all these little things that you can do to perfect it. I haven't gotten it right yet, but I've come close. So it was just a really wonderful, wonderful race. It hurt really badly, but there is a lot of gratification in doing hard things. So it certainly hooked me on the sport and made me want to perfect the marathon.
That's so cool. And such a great race to run. I got to run it this last fall and it was incredible. And I can only imagine in the aftermath of 9/11. I just remember how, the entire country, it was just so patriotic. Everything felt, you know, so great at that time as a country coming together. I lived 3,000 miles away, so I can only imagine what it was like in New York City. That is such a cool experience. At what point did your training, because you said that the goal was originally to go to Athens in the 10,000 and medal in that. At what point did you realize that actually the marathon is what you want to focus on?
Yeah, it was only the summer before the Athens Olympics that I realized that my best chances at a medal were in the marathon. I looked at both critically. I was pretty set on running the 10,000 until my coach Joe Vigil and Andrew set me down to look critically at that decision, saying if your goal is to medal, let's be realistic about your chances of closing in sub 60 seconds in the 400. Have you ever done it? No, I haven't. And then let's look at the marathon and look at where you stack up against the best in the world. And I was about fourth as far as times were concerned, fourth fastest in the world that year in the marathon. So it made sense that if I could just get faster than one person, then I had a chance of medaling there. And that's when we just became super strategic about training. Like, okay, if it's one person you have to catch, let's make this digestible. Like, how do we do like these, how can we get incrementally better at everything, incrementally better at hydrating, incrementally better at massage and recovery, incrementally better at our training. And so we made some tweaks, and it was what I needed to be able to go the distance and get on that podium.
That makes a lot of sense, and it sounds like it was the right decision there as well. Now let's go back to Athens in August of 2004. When did you get there? What were you thinking, feeling? What was it like being back at the Olympics?
Yeah, it was great. It is really wonderful getting on that airplane to go to your goal race, feeling super prepared for it. So it wasn't a summer of working harder than ever before. It was a summer of working smarter than ever before. So really, all those little tweaks of like wearing excess clothing while I was training and getting in more hydration and getting my stomach used to that, moving one of our workouts in the week up to 9,000 feet altitude, which is 2,000 feet higher than any hard workouts I had done before. All those little things seemed to be the magic recipe in getting me fitter than ever before. So getting on that plane, feeling so confident. My teammate Meb Keflezgi also had a similar experience in his preparations because we were doing a lot of the same work. So we were feeling really good at our going away party, and then getting on that flight and landing on the island of Crete first. We spent about 3 weeks on the island of Crete doing our final preparations there, just to get used to the climate and the time zone. And it was a magical few weeks on the island of Crete, moving our hard workouts from morning, which we did here in Mammoth Lakes, to evening because our races were going to be in the evening. And so just the intense heat of the Greek summers, Greek summer evenings. Meb got chased by a dog at one point on some of the dirt roads, and we really just worked hard together and continued to work hard together until the week before our races, when we were letting up on our mileage but not our intensity, and just felt like we were absolutely ready to fulfill the goal that we had set out to do 4 years prior.
And y'all were, and both of y'all were. That's so great. That's awesome. I didn't know about the Crete training going up to that, but that makes sense. I guess with jet lag, all of that, you definitely want to be in a good place. And it was hot. It was really hot. I was reading about the race, and it was like 100 degrees the day of the race. Where was your head in the minutes leading up to that starting gun?
Yeah, I think my only little panic came when I saw the temperature gauge on the bus when we were exiting the bus, getting dropped off in the town of Marathon, where the start line was. And the register on the bus said 101 degrees. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've trained for heat, but not triple digits. And then I had to, like, as anybody does when a negative thought pops into their head, like, I've come so far and I have trained for the heat, although it wasn't 101 degrees I was training in. Let's look at all the reasons that you are more prepared than anybody else to undertake this. And then also convincing myself, okay, so if it's 101 now, the race starts in an hour and a half, it'll be slightly cooler because it's evening time. And by the time I get to the finish, cooler still. So trying to convince myself that it wasn't that bad. I just had to really run an extra cautious race so that I didn't risk dehydrating, which I saw the rest of the world do right in front of my eyes pretty quickly. So it was really just taking that initial panic and then just being strategic about it, and kind of backpedaling on that panic and rationalizing with it until I got to a comfortable place of what my race strategy was going to be. So I anticipated going out slowly, but I went out like exceptionally slow, like way pedestrian pace. I think I've power walked through them all faster than I started those first few miles.
Well, that's okay. It worked out. It worked out. You know, it was strategic, and I think that's such a problem that people make. You know, at that level and at my level is going out too fast. So especially with the weather like that, and knowing that it was gonna cool off. But what did it feel like being in the birthplace of the marathon? Because you actually started, y'all ran on the course, the original, not just the 1896 marathon, which in itself is a historic moment, but the ancient first marathon. What did that feel like?
Following in the footsteps of Phidippides himself. The historical significance was not lost on me. I was reading about it all summer long, like details about the lore, whether it's myth or actually happened, just Phidippides' journey, and then the history of the marathon and Spiridon Louis years later. Like, it was really special to land there. It's such a understated town when you like pull up on this dusty road and there's a couple guys in white tank tops, overweight men in white tank tops, sipping their afternoon espresso outside of a coffee house. And you pull up to the stadium, which is also really understated in marathon. And then even understated still was lining up with the best women in the world, but it has nothing on a New York City, Chicago, or Boston marathon start line. It was like 84 girls on a together. And so even that seemed really understated. So the only thing that made it fanfare-ish were the television cameras, like the big booms that were stretched out in front of us and the helicopters flying overhead. You were like, okay, this is important. This is important. But it felt sort of like more like a high school cross country dual meet than it did feeling like you were in the grandeur of the Olympic birthplace running against the best women in the world. But it did feel super special. And even in my head, standing there on the start line, I was really looking forward to clipping off some of those iconic spots, the tomb of soldiers that we would run around, and just that lore of Athens and the Panathinaikos Stadium in the distance.
And one of the things, so when I run marathons, this is like a 10-minute mile. So I have plenty of time to take in the sights and really see things. Were you able to enjoy those sights and places, or was it just a blur as you ran by?
I did. I enjoyed the sights. I enjoyed the crowds, which were fantastic. I even like felt amusement in the fact that the local organizing committee said that they were going to plant olive trees to shade us. It was fresh black asphalt. They repaved the way so it would be like special and smooth surface, as opposed to like the bumpy ancient streets of Greece, of Athens itself. And so it was like hot black asphalt, hot sun. And the trees they planted, maybe they ran out of money late in the game, but they were like 2 feet tall. So like not offering any shade at all. So little things that you find amusing along the way to keep your mind engaged. And one of the things that I remember very clearly was that the United States was in war at the time. And so the US athletes had FBI agents that were following along. And they were the only 3 people aside from the runners themselves that were allowed on the start line, were these 3 men dressed in black with their earpieces in. And then along the course, I kept seeing them like, oh, there's Colleen's FBI agent. And oh, there's Jen's FBI agent. Oh, there's my FBI agent. And so they were like piggybacking, like leapfrogging along the course. And when we would pass, they would let central command know that we were accounted for. And that is who I relied on in the end when they were saying what place that I was in. I think it was Jen's FBI agent, and I'm sorry I don't know their actual names, but her FBI agent was told me that I was in 10th place, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so then I got really engaged with like clipping off the people in front of me to be able to count down to a podium finish.
At what point did you realize that getting on the podium was a distinct possibility, that it was actually going to be happening?
Yeah, I had seen in the earlier stages of the race, even 6 miles in, 5 miles in, women really suffering going out in over their heads. And it really was scary to see what the heat can do to you when you're overexerting. There was women staggering down the road. And I remember thinking, these are the best marathoners in the world, staggering to the side of the road and peeling off, or like puking from dehydration so early. And so it was late in the race, when I saw, it was maybe a couple miles to go, when I saw Elf Neshalemu of Ethiopia in front of me, but I saw her knees kind of caving in and her kind of stagger a little bit. So I knew she was feeling fatigue. And I saw earlier that when people fatigued, they fatigued fast, and there wasn't really a recovery that happened to rally from that. And so as soon as I saw her falter way ahead up the road, I just dug down and gave it everything I had, because the countdown in my mind was like, if I pass her, if I can pass her before I get to those lights up ahead, which was the lights of the stadium, if I can pass her, then I've got a medal. But when I did pass her, I got like a little charge of excitement, and someone on the sidelines said that I was in fourth place. She said in like very clear English, "Good job, girl. You're now in fourth place." And I was like, "Oh my God." And I immediately looked up the road to Catherine Deriva of Kenya. And I'm like, I don't think I can catch her. But I decided to just put my head down and try. And so I did. And so I didn't really know when I got into the stadium, I couldn't catch Catherine, but I did also wasn't really entirely sure of my place. And so I kept listening to the announcer, who was, Gary Hill of Track and Field News. It was his voice, which I heard very clearly, that he finally said after a woman spoke in Greek and then French. Gary Hill came on the speaker and in English said, "Deena Kastor is going to capture the bronze." And I just burst into the ugliest cry ever, with billions of people watching, and hearing my mom like shout, like her voice out of the thousands of people that were in the stadium. It was my mom's voice that stands out, her yells across the stadium. So it was a beautiful moment, and a lot of friends and family in the stands to share in celebrating right after.
That's amazing. And it's the same stadium that they used in the 1896 Olympics. So that is just I can't even imagine being there like as a spectator, let alone running, let alone making it on the podium. That's just so
Yeah.
incredible.
The moment itself felt super intimate. Like the guys, the three friends that helped me train all summer long and really just socked it to me in training. And I had them, I felt them there with me. Coach V Hill, my coach, since I first became a professional runner, who recently passed away in the last couple of weeks. He was there. My agent, Ray Flynn, my parents and sister, and my sister's best friend, Melissa, and my cousins, my other cousin that recently passed away, all these people in my life that were there in the stadium. So it felt super intimate. But as time went on, I started hearing these bigger stories of where people were when they were watching it, and even that they had aired the finish of the marathon in the main stadium, so everybody got to see it there, and friends' wives leaving the house because they're shouting at the TV as I'm moving up in places. So their wife leaves the house and she goes to Costco, and everyone's crowded around the televisions at Costco watching the marathon. So it was really fun to hear all these stories of how people experience this, what felt like a really intimate moment for me.
That's amazing. Where do you keep your Olympic medal now?
Well, because I knew we were going to talk about it, it's right
Oh
here.
my goodness.
I typically keep it in an office cupboard, but
Oh,
there
how
it is. And
cool.
that's
That is so cool.
yeah, the goddess Athena, and she's hovered over Panathinaikos Stadium, which was super special. That this is the medal that all the athletes got in those Olympics, but the Panathinaikos Stadium is represented in this medal, so super special. And then it says Athens 2004 on the ribbon.
Oh, I love
So
it. That's amazing. If honestly, if I won that medal, I probably would have been wearing it for the previous 21 years. So so I don't blame you having it ready to go to show the camera.
uh, yeah, it's special. It's special, but even more special to me is the laurel wreath that they put on our heads on the podium. And the laurel wreaths, the six marathoners, the three female and the three male marathoners that got their that podiumed in the marathon, our laurel wreaths are actually clippings of Athena's ancient olive tree.
Wow, that
So
is just
that's
so amazing.
yeah, so I had the leaves of Athena's ancient olive trees on my head, and I hand carried that thing back home because I was so proud of it. And when I landed in California, immigration officers told me I couldn't bring in vegetation, and I was like, "Oh, please, 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 let me take this in." And then one of my teammates said, "She just won an Olympic medal," and they were like, "No." And And so then they wanted to see my Olympic medal, but it was in my baggage. So I had to like rummage through my baggage. And then all of them were like posing with my medal around their necks and taking selfies. So they let me bring that laurel wreath through.
Oh,
And it's hanging in the office here.
oh, thank goodness. I was like, oh no. I cannot even
Yeah.
imagine. Oh, that is so cool. I am so glad that you got to bring it back. What were your thoughts, feelings with Molly in 2021 repeating your third place at the Olympics?
It was so special, and being able to congratulate her via text message after that. You're just like, I could get it now because you're like yelling at the television as it's happening. And then I text Joan Benoit Samuelson, and she showed me a picture of her and her granddaughter sitting in front of the computer watching it, cheering. So
I'm
it just,
getting goosebumps. Like the three of y'all are
yeah,
like just like talking about this. That's amazing.
yeah, just like a special connection you have with the history of the sport, with Joan, me, and now Molly in the marathon. And even if we're talking about the marathon in and of itself, I was really striving to break Joan Benoit Samuelson's American record in London in 2003. And when I did, she called me on the phone. So when Kira D'Amato broke my American record 19 years later, I called her at the finish line to congratulate her. And then Joan, me, and Kira were all at the finish line of the Chicago Marathon when Emily Sisson broke the record. So it was really beautiful to kind of like continue that chain of like passing on the torch or passing the baton.
I love that. No, like I actually am getting goosebumps just like hearing you talk about it. That is just so cool, and I love the support
Yeah.
but between all of y'all. That is so fantastic.
You have to give credit to Joan Bonight Samuelson for being the class act to start all that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And what an icon as well. And I was gonna ask, as far as other races besides this, historic races, historic running figures, who would you want to see an episode about? Or what race?
Oh, wow. Well, I would say Joan Benoit
Yeah,
Samuelson and,
that's
and
what I was thinking.
her win in 1984 was just so special and paved the way for so many people. So I think that's a really beautiful story in and of itself, because she was like praying to whatever God would listen to her. If I can pull this off, I will spend my life giving back to the sport, and she
Yeah,
has.
I was about to say she absolutely has.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, she definitely has. Gosh, I mean, she just sticks out so much
yeah.
because she's such a leader in this sport. So you may have stumped me
No, that's it. That's a great one. That's
on a more
that's
unique answer. I'll probably email you 10 more ideas.
yeah.
10
Oh,
more
please do.
ideas
Please do.
after.
Yeah, no, but she's a great one, and honestly, that's what I figured. Just where we were in the conversation, I thought that was what you were gonna say, but I did wanna ask. That is so cool. Now, what does your relationship look like with running these days? I know you're running the Sydney Marathon in a couple weeks. What else?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I continue to run because it really does bring out the best side of me. I mean, it also brings out the beast in me, but that helps bring out the best side of me. So when I'm at a place of like fatigue or struggle or doubt, I really embrace that and sit with those uncomfortable feelings until I can find a way to like rise out of it and be stronger than that challenge. And so that's my relationship with running now. I love that relationship because it keeps flexing the best side of myself and keeping that very present. And with running, it's really great that you could bring on that discomfort or challenge because it's safe to do it there. You don't want to like bring on challenge in your everyday life to see if you can handle it. But it really does help me handle the challenges that come with everyday life. And so I really like that. But more so my relationship with the community is showing them how your mindset can really bring the best out of yourself physically, and your best physically can really bring about your best mindset. So using those two simultaneously. ASICS is my longtime sponsor. I've been with them for almost 25 years now, or 25 years, and their acronym is from the Latin term anima sana in corpore sano, or a sound mind and a sound body. So I feel like I live that journey every day and feel that privilege of living that journey every day in my running shoes. So wanting people to know, like, even when I was training for the Athens Olympics and Coach V Hill would come up next to me and give me my fluids and then point out to the surrounding environment and say, this is just like Athens. And I would look around and be like, really? This isn't how I pictured Athens looking. But he was trying to get me in the mindset of Athens so that the hard work was associated with that race itself. And so the beauty of just shifting your mind around to really get the best out of yourself physically has been such a great journey, and one I hope to live out the rest of my days doing.
That's awesome. Well, Deena, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I cannot wait to see you run Sydney, and then at the Every Women's Marathon in November.
Yes, I'll see you in Scottsdale, Hillary. I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you. Wow, an absolute legend. As a woman, an American, a marathoner, a general runner, and just like a human, there is so much to admire about Deena Kastor. I am so excited for her to be running the Sydney Marathon next weekend, and we will all be following along here at home. That is it for today's episode. Thanks again to Deena, and thank you all for listening. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on alerts, rate 5 stars, and then send this episode to literally everyone, because Deena is incredible and they all need to hear it. It is Fueled Friday, so check out the link to Fuel Goods in the episode description and use my code Hillary10 at checkout. Then join me tomorrow for a conversation with the granddaughter of the only Indigenous American to ever win the Boston Marathon. I'm your host, Running Up That Hillary, and this has been Today Running History.